Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm on theme because we are going to be talking about Sister Snake by Amanda Lee Coe. This came out last year, but it's her most recent novel. She's one of my favorite Singaporean authors. This is the Singapore edition book cover. Compared to the other book cover, this one is so sick. It has a lot of cool graphics. The vibe is awesome. And I pre-ordered this. It's published by Ethos Books in Singapore. I went to the event at Book Bar where Amanda held a little book club and chatted with everyone around about the book. So I'm very excited to report that I finally finished it. It was a quick read. It was an easy read. And I am so excited to chat about it. So Sister Snake is based on a Chinese folktale called The Legend of the White Snake, but obviously it's reimagined and we're really focused on the two female characters, whereas the legend also has a man. Who cares? So this book really centers on the relationship between two women, but actually they're snakes. And so we start off with their origin story. They are two snakes at the West Lake in Hangzhou, China, back in the Tang Dynasty. And eventually, one of the snakes decides that she wants to be human. And so then we follow their lives as Sue and Emerald as they're able to morph in between the forms of a snake and a female. The two snakes are Emerald, who is a green viper, and Sue, who is a white crake. So those are kind of the snake forms that they inhabit. And they are sisters, but not by blood, more by found connection. And they live together in the hollow of a tree alongside the lake before getting into their human forms and then kind of growing apart. And Emerald is very much the wild child, super independent. She doesn't shy away from the fact that she has an original form as a snake. She really wants to be seen for who she is, and she goes through different eras that are really full of life and independence and allow her to party. Whereas Sue has chosen to live in Singapore for much of her human time, and she is really repressed, I would say. She is very into passing and really wanting to be seen as a human. She wants to make sure that she never has like a slither to her walk at all. She wants to make sure that she is fully recognized as like a human and not a snake. And so therein lies kind of the tension that we all face in terms of how we want to show up as our true selves or how we want to mold into society, but also between the sisters. And I think it's obviously a big source of conflict for them because Emerald finds it finds Sue's living style very problematic, whereas Sue finds Emerald as someone who's just asking for trouble and can't be satisfied with what she has. The plot unfolds quickly. There's a lot of good action. I love the depictions of Sue's life as a Tai married to a minister in Singapore and kind of all of the trappings that very atas life brings. There are a few other interesting side characters, including her Malay driver, who is also navigating her own queer relationship in a very conservative family and society, and essentially events occur that force Emerald to come to Singapore, and they try to figure out if they can coexist and live together even though they've chosen such different ways of embodying their human forms. And then a lot of different things unfold. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I think what I love so much about this book is not just the theme of the sister relationship, but I really more view it as like female friendship and just the really strong bond that these two snakes or these two women have, regardless of whether it's through blood or through shared experience, just them truly loving each other on such a visceral level, but then allowing all the other distractions to kind of threaten that relationship. And so all of these selfish, egotistical obstacles that we have where we care about, our ego, we care about whether we look good, we care about just all of those frictions that we let get in the way, which I think are very common in family and really deep friendships, is even though the foundation is so strong and the foundation is love, there's so much that can get in the way and create communication breakdown. And I feel like that is something that really spoke to me about the relationship between Sue and Emerald. A lot of like missed communications. A lot of times where the true intent or the true emotion that's being felt or played out is love, but then because you have complex baggage, and these are immortal snakes, so they have years and years, hundreds of years of baggage and mixed messages. Because of that, it's like interpreted in the wrong way or not picked up. And that's something that I definitely relate to, like somebody that I love but feel unable to connect with. I think is a feeling that is captured really well in this novel, and also is a key impetus for a lot of the events that unfold and a lot of the actions that happen. The ending like totally wrecked me. I like bawled at the end. I really feel like Amanda Lee Coe does such a good job of capturing complex feelings and emotions. Yeah, and I've heard some people call this like a queer reimagining, and if so, like that's awesome. But whether it's like sisters or lovers or just female friends, like the relationship they have is so powerful and so like it's just unstoppable. Like it really overwhelms me to think about like having that with someone, because they sacrifice for each other, they protect each other, yet they're so different. And they have like a fundamental philosophical conflict on how to live. And that's like the most important thing to fight about, is whether you should assimilate or whether you should try to be seen for who you are. And it's so fun that that core idea is really wrapped up in kind of this mythical Chinese folklore infused characters of these snakes. There are a lot of, I don't want to give away too much because I really think you should pick up the book and just read it yourself, but a lot of the storylines around having a child, finding like found family, or like having really close friends, really like whether it's possible to let anyone see your true self, or whether there's always part of you that's like trying to pass or trying to fit in. A lot of those storylines and the way that they're drawn out, I thought were really poignant and like really touching. Yeah, and this is just such a like delightful and fast read. And because it's Amanda Lee Coe, like of course it's like wonderfully written, it's very evocative. But compared to Delayed Raise of a Star, which I loved, this one is really easy to get through and just so entertaining and so fun to read, but will also make you cry and make you feel things and really make you think about whether it's worth it to even have relationships with other people, because it's so hard to really know how to navigate that dynamic of like loving someone so much yet not being able to communicate like what you need and what you desire from them in order to like feel seen and to feel validated. I also think just like the fact that they're so different yet they love each other so much is something that's like really timely as well. Like I feel like a lot of us are struggling with understanding how to have a relationship or a friendship with someone who's like very different from us. There's a lot of like, you know, protect your energy, draw boundaries, like if it's not serving you, you shouldn't give it time and attention, which I think is fair, but maybe a bit of an overcorrection too, because I think a lot of times you do just have to accept someone wholly and like unconditionally, and that's something that I really was thinking about as I was reading this book, because the love that these two sisters have for each other is like so deep and foundational that it almost doesn't matter that they're so completely different. And I think that really speaks to like family relationships as well. And I think Amanda did a good job of incorporating some contemporary topics into the book. She talks about a trans student and how the Ministry of Education deals with it. She talks about Golden Mile being shut down. And so if you're from Singapore, it's definitely like I'm going to recommend this to all my friends because it is a novel that has a strong sense of place. I also really love that event that we had with her at Book Bar, because I think she also understands that there's such a difference between her Singaporean readers, and she's based in New York, and like her American or New York City based readers, like I just can imagine how a book club in like a small indie bookstore in New York City would be so different than the book club that happened in Singapore. But I was so impressed. Like everyone brought up such good points, and really I think dug into that kernel of like family relationships and family ties, which I do feel like plays a much stronger role in people's lives in Asian cultures and in Singapore than it does in a more individualistic society. And so hearing those themes being teased and brought up in this book club discussion in Singapore was so nice. And it was also cool to hear Amanda talk about, you know, the things that she thought Singaporean readers would pick up on, acts of service as a way to show love, cooking and food as a way to show love. And so I thought that that was like a really special opportunity for me to kind of hear her thoughts on that. So I definitely recommend this. I give it 5 stars. It's just such a entertaining and fun read, especially if you're into like Chinese folk stories. I think it's like an absolute blast. And if you read it, please let me know and let me know your thoughts. And if you live in Singapore, I'll lend you my copy, so just hit me up.